Welcome to year 2 of A Mick, a Mook, and a Mike.
Hosted by 4-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Pace. And retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, director, actor, producer, artist, Jeff McCracken.
My brother Frank, how you doing today, pal?
Hey, thanks for that soda bread.
Not bad, right? If you glom enough butter on it, you get away with anything.
Why didn't you tell me what soda bread is?
Well, it's an Irish thing, Frank. You must know about it. Actually, you know what it is? It's a giant scone. Anybody who's ever eaten scones,
yeah,
that's pretty much what it is. It's just a bigger scone. But the ones in Ireland are not as sweet as they are. I tell you, my ex-wife, who's Italian, gave me the recipe for that soda bread, and it's the best soda bread I ever eaten.
It's the best soda bread.
Well, it's definitely the best soda bread Derek's ever eaten.
It's the biggest soda. I was expecting like a little loaf.
I do everything big, Frank. I'm big.
I got a discus, for Christ's sake.
Go big or go home. Yeah, that's another thing. You can spin it.
but you don't want to get in the way of it. You want to move. Look at the weight on this. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a handy old yoke, as they say in Ireland. A handy old yoke.
Well, today's guest is Jeff McCracken, an old friend of mine. He's a director, artist, writer,
producer,
actor. He's a great guy.
I wonder how he missed musician. I mean, I got to ask him. He's such a renaissance.
You know what? He may be a musician.
He's amazing. I mean, I did the research on this guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, well, about 10 years ago, maybe less, he discovered he was an artist, and he's doing some.
I saw some of his work. Yeah, it's crazy.
So he'll be on in a few minutes.
That's great.
As soon as we exhaust our
preliminaries.
As we exhaust our preliminaries.
I see your buddy was in the news, Kathy Griffin.
Fuck her.
I thought I'd give you a jab with her. I knew that would come up.
Kathy Griffin. She played the New York Times. She got a young writer who was writing for the New York Times, and she played her like a virtuoso. And that's what Kathy does. She tells people this sob story about how she was taken advantage of. She brought everything on herself, and she tells people that she was fired. All of those things that happened because she did it to herself.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what?
And so now it's, whoa, me, the world is being so
that takes a talent in itself, though, to be able to play people, right? I mean,
she's got a great talent for that. And the article said she was worth $50 million, or that she had $50 million in the bank. Well, good for her.
Does she? Wow.
I don't
believe it. Slow dance?
I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything she says.
Well, you wrote a nice chapter about her, and if these lips could talk, a nice toasty chapter, I might add, about your impression of Kathy Griffin and what she's all about.
I told you that story about at Don Rickles' funeral. Larry Rickles, who's also passed, may he rest in peace, was a PA on Daddy Dearest. And Kathy,
PA, you got a
production assistant on PA on Daddy Dearest, and Kathy started playing up to him because she knew if she got close to Larry, she was her ticket to Don. So she used Larry to get to Don, and Don, was sort of he's nice to everybody, the nicest man I ever met. So at Don's funeral, Kathy Griffin was there. Now it was maybe 20 years after the show had gone off the air. So I saw her and I said, oh, shit.
And you were the producer of that show.
I was the producer of that show.
So there's no way she doesn't know that.
No. And I knew she didn't. So I said, oh, shit. I'll be a big man and I'll go say hello to her.
Reluctantly.
So reluctantly, I walked up to her and I said, hi, Kathy, how are you? She goes, excuse me, do I know you? So I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I said, yes, I'm Frank Pace. She goes, doesn't ring a bell. I said to myself,
what am I?
I said to myself, you fucking idiot, you fell for it.
You turned into one of the old day lollipops, like in the cartoons where you turned into the old day sucker.
Yeah. I said, Kathy, you know who I am. I produced Suddenly Susan with you for 5 years. And in that 5 years, I learned that you're not a good enough actor to pull this off. And then I walked away.
Well, that's about the way you handle it, the way you should have handled it. Imagine working for 5 years with somebody and then pretend you don't know who the hell they are. And why? And why? What does that make you? What is that?
Well, she got hers. So I don't wish anybody anything, but I wish if I ever did wish anybody something, I might wish it upon Kathy.
I don't wish you any ill will, but I don't want any good winds to blow your way either.
Yeah, she remarkably had COVID and got over it. The first people. Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Well, I had to get you started, Frank. I figured I'd give you a poke. I knew you'd have something to say about Kathy Griffin because of in the book. If Lips Could Talk,
in the news. In the news.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, isn't it? I mean, really, to stay in the news, try and stay pertinent, try and stay relevant.
I wrote a thing about fame and celebrity in the book. Kathy has to be a celebrity. It's critical to her well-being to be a celebrity. She doesn't have a life if she's not in the news. So other people don't want to be in the news, but are still very famous. The difference between fame and celebrity. Rod Carew was very good at being famous, but he wasn't good at being a celebrity. So he withdrew from public life. As opposed to Pete Rose, who was famous, and he was very good at being a celebrity, so he courted both.
I was talking to Derek Harris, of course, our third man in the booth. I was talking to Derek before the show, and it just happened to come up about how many times you walk into a lounge act in Vegas and you see this guy on a guitar or this guy singing, and you say, this guy's fantastic. How can this guy not be famous? How can it be? And reality is, like everything, there's two different talents. It's talent of having a talent and letting people know that you're talented.
Right.
And it's totally two different things, I mean,
and, some people like me, their talent is luck. I'm always in the right place at the right time.
And you're a hard worker, Frank.
Well,
you work hard.
That too.
I mean, I got to say, you're the hardest working son of a bitch I ever met. You work hard. You don't think nothing of 12, 14-hour days. Me, I want that time and a half, Frank. If I'm over 8 hours, I want that time and a half. I'm a union guy all the way.
Speaking of time and a half, let's get Jeff on.
Yeah, let's get him on. This is a guy who's really a talented guy, diverse.
All right, so let's bring on Jeff McCracken. Jeff, me lad. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you.
Hey guys.
Oh, there it is. There we go. Look at he's already smiling. I tell you, this will be the smilingest motherfucker.
Good.
We've ever
spread the wealth.
Radiate. We've ever had on. How are you, friend?
I'm super, man.
Great.
Just really, really great. Yeah.
Okay. And now you're meeting for the first time within 10 seconds, Billy O'Connor.
Meet you, Jeff. Absolute pleasure.
And Derek
Such
Harris.
Such a pleasure, Billy. Such a pleasure.
Very, very fine actor. Geez, I've almost known you now for 40 years. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah.
Wow. Why did you
I've read both your books, guys. And I have to say, If These Lips Could Talk is awesome. I love the anecdotes. And Frank, you laid it all out there for yourself. And it was really a great read. I really enjoyed it. And, it's amazing. I didn't know you knew half the people you knew in that book. So it was a really fun read. And then Billy, dude, you are an amazing writer. I have to say, Confessions of a Gambler. It's like written Charles Bukowski with a dash of David Lynch.
Oh man, that's high praise. Thank you so much. Coming from you, high praise.
It was really awesome. And I have to say something. I felt like your father confessor. You wrote such an intimate way, and I felt like I was in the confessional with you. And I forgive you. I absorb you.
I had one critic, a woman, say, she says, boy, you had a lot to confess.
Well, Billy, you may not be aware of this, but because of Jeff, we got our book agent in New York, Julia.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Jeff, I got so much questions to ask you. I mean, so many things that fascinate me. And playwriting, it really blows me away. I really want to know a lot about the plays you've written. I mean, how many of you have produced actually?
Well, I've only written 2 plays actually, and neither one of them have been produced. I'm really new at this, at the playwright stuff.
Well, you were just
I've
over
done-
in Ireland, weren't you?
Yeah, I just came back from Belfast, where they're going to do my play over there, and that should be really fun. And then they're going to want to take it to London and then here. So I'm really excited about that. It was a labor of love.
And which play is that, Jeff?
This is called Memory of Convenience, and
Right.
it's about it's a reconciliation play between a father and a daughter who haven't seen each other for 20 years, and he was part of the Troubles, and she's the new generation. So it's a generational dynamic that's at play between the both of them.
Are you in touch with your Irish roots? I mean, is that
I am, Billy,
what motivated the play?
Well, I went to Belfast 40 years ago in 1980. It was 1980, 42 years ago. And I had just done a movie, and I said, I'm going to take a trip to Europe, and I want to see my relatives or where they lived in Ireland, because they lived in Northern Ireland and the Republic. And so I went over there and saw the church where they were all, parishioners of. Saw the
Were they all brainwashed?
Well, yeah.
Billy was born in Ireland.
I was born in Cork. I'm a recovering Catholic.
Yeah, you and I both. Frank, are you Catholic?
I am.
Yeah, right. So why? It's the choir.
Don't say choir. Don't say choir. A lot of those abused bastards were still trying to.
So hey, I didn't have any problems with the priests. I got to tell you, I was going to ask you guys who your favorite mentors were growing up, and who influenced you the most in your lives. And the first one that comes to mind is Father Moosbrugger, who was a Jesuit priest at St. Ignatius in Chicago my freshman year. And I was living in the south side of Chicago, very dysfunctional. My dad had just left, and we had nothing. And I could have gone this way or that way, And Father Moosbrugger was there, and he read me the riot act, and he was like a leprechaun. He was literally like I think 5 feet tall. And he really put me on the right path. I tell you, it weren't for him. So I all my experiences with nuns and priests were pretty good, I have to say.
And you were a good-looking kid too.
No kidding. So you escaped unscathed.
I guess in the right place, at the right time.
But it's interesting to me that the play that you get doing Ireland and England and coming to the States is about the Troubles and Ireland and the Troubles. Tell me something. I wouldn't know how to go about writing a play. Is there a metaphor in your head before you start? Is that part of it?
It's really funny, Billy. They come to me in different ways. The first play I wrote was about a bipolar writer, and it was kind of fashioned after my mom. She wasn't really bipolar per se, but she did have a manic streak, much like you. And I think that the dynamic that I gleaned from that was you're right from a personal point of view. And when I went to Belfast 42 years ago, I thought, oh, what's all this nonsense about Protestants and Catholics fighting and being discordant with one another? I'm going to go over there and just sit them down and end this nonsense. That's how naive and stupid I was. I had no idea how deep it went and how the history of everything in Ireland. And so I literally got my ass handed to me, and it was a violent, horrible place where kids were, in the war zone. And it was just, everything was a war zone. You had to go through 2 checkpoints, barbed wire, and the whole thing to just get into your hotel. So I left there very disenchanted and discouraged and upset. So to go back there 42 years later with a play that actually, circles healing, is something that means a lot to me. And I couldn't ask for so the genesis of the play for me came about a short film I wrote about a girl seeking her father. And I thought, well, I'm going to set this in Belfast or set it here, but have the Irish Republican Army father, he brought his wife and daughter to this country 30 years ago to escape the Troubles, and also some of the things that he'd done. And so his wife took the daughter back to Belfast after 10 years because she couldn't stand his drinking and his violence. And he was, basically PTSD. He was out of control. So she divorces him, takes the daughter back to Ireland, and he hasn't seen his daughter in 20 years. And the play starts when he's in this tavern in Kieran, Connecticut, and his daughters come to find him for several reasons.
Wow, that's great premise.
That's interesting.
Great premise.
So you were back in Chicago.
Yep.
How did two roads diverged into Yellow Wood, and you took the road less traveled by because you went to school to be an actor? Or how did your acting career come about?
Like Billy, I was in the Air Force. It was later than him. I was in service from 71 to 74.
Right behind me.
Right out of high school then.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, and this is crazy, I got nominated to the Naval Academy by Donald Rumsfeld. Well, he was my congressman.
See, now I didn't know that.
Whoa!
Yeah. So it was bizarre, and so anyway, I actually got my letter of acceptance, and I got my bags packed, and I was also excited. And you go there for a summer orientation. I got there, and they had no record of me. And I'm like, excuse me, but here's my letter, and here's everything, and I'm supposed to be here. And they go, no, you're not. There's been a clerical error. You were not admitted. And I went, excuse me? And they went, yeah, first of all, your eyesight's not good enough, and your grades aren't good enough. And so, which they weren't. I was surprised I even got nominated. But anyway, so I had to go back to Chicago with my tail between my legs, and I had no college to go to in the fall. And so my draft number was, front and center. And so I was going to get drafted.
Mine was number 4, by the way.
Oh my God.
I thought I won a lottery. I didn't realize I didn't realize I was dead man walking. But go ahead, continue.
Oh man, no, mine was actually not too bad. I think it was like 100, 125 or something. And the chances of me really going to getting drafted, I think, was pretty nil. I think things were starting to sort of simmer down. I don't know, but Nixon hadn't done the pullouts yet. He was just going to start that in a year. So, but I like Billy, I was kind of lost, and I kind of felt like this would give me a way out of my dire circumstances, and so I thought, well, no, this is a good thing, and I can go to college on my GI Bill, and so I was going to join the Marines, and I was in the recruiter's office, and the Marine recruiter was out. He wasn't there. So the Air Force recruiter was, and he says, "Hey kid, you want to become a pilot?" I said, "I'd love to become a pilot. Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah, you can fly, and afterward you get out of the service, you can have
do anything you want."
Oh yeah. And I said, "Where do I sign? This is awesome." So I signed up to be an Air Force pilot, and I enlisted to be in the Air Force. So I got done with my basic training, and I got pneumonia in basic training, and I recovered from that. And then they gave me my assignment to be a weather forecaster. And I said, no. I said, excuse me, son. This is another. It's like I never read the fine print. I guess they said to me, you first of all, you're too tall. You're 6'4".
Your eyes.
Second of all, your eyes, exactly. And third, you got to be an officer to fly a plane. Uh-huh. And in order to be an officer, you need a college degree. So, dude, get the back of the line. So I was again going, oh, are you kidding me? So the recruiter lied right to my face, just lied to my face. And so,
when has that ever happened before?
Imagine a recruiter promising you something that's not going to come to pass.
Unbelievable! I can't believe that they actually.
And the government would lie to you. Right?
I can't believe it.
Hard to believe.
All right, go ahead.
Off to Lackland with you. Lackland Air Force Base. Yep.
Lackland Air Force Base. And then I went to Chanute for my weather training, and then they deployed me to the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Kansas, because the Army don't have weather forecasters for their Army Air Corps. So I ended up in the Army anyway. So it was weird. And then I did that for a year, and then I was sent to Delaware, Dover Air Force, Delaware.
Yeah, sure.
And and that's when my head kind of turned. You know those planes, Billy, the Galaxy 5 and the C-130s, and they would land at Dover Air Force Base, which was the receiving port base for all the dead veterans from Vietnam. And they would literally undo the plane's back, and they would just cart out
Corpses.
casket after casket, 3 high, 4 wide, on the tarmac in a hot sun, and they would just sit there and bake. And I would just look at this, the flags over them. I got to tell you, it turned my head. When I joined the service, I actually thought at that time that Kent State, the students had shot first. I mean, I believe the dynamics that the students caused the shootings, much like today's news. And so I kind of bought that. And then now I realized that through the course of the years that it wasn't the case. And I started reading up about Vietnam and all the things that were going on. I'd lost a couple of friends over there, and I was just kind of like, okay, this is not good. So my head kind of turned, and I started to think I want out of the service. And I thought about going AWOL to Canada, but then a friend of mine said, you can't do that. You'll lose everything. And so I started becoming USArian from Catch-22. I stopped wearing my uniform top. I didn't go naked. I just worked out wearing my uniform top, and I started I always went to my job, and I'm going into the weather station, and a general was walking out, and I say, "Hey, how you doing, General?" And he looked at me and went, "Excuse me," and he went crazy. And
Corporal Klinger. Corporal Klinger.
Yeah, and there's a full bird behind him laughing because he thinks it's hysterical, but the general wasn't having any of it. And he says, "I want you in my office at 10:00 tomorrow morning with your commanding officer." And I said, "Okay, sir, I'll be there." And I went in, and Captain Egoff was my commander. And I went in and I said, "Captain, we got a problem." And I messed up, I think. I just saw the general, and he wants us at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And he was like, McCracken, you idiot moron. So, and I had a stellar record. I was a good airman, but I was just kind of tweaked. And anyway, I reported the next day at 10:00 with full dress uniform, pressed out, shoes polished, everything, perfect. Reported in military fashion. And the general said, "I hear you want out of the service, McCracken." And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "How does 12 noon sound today?" I said,
Oh, wow.
He said, "Now get the fuck out of my office. And I don't want to see you again." And I went, "Yes, sir." And I went to the door. He said, "McCracken." I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You're a loser. You'll never amount to nothing." And I went, "Yes, sir."
Why argue with him?
They didn't give you a dishonorable, did they? Did they give you a dishonorable?
No, he gave me an honorable.
Wow.
That's the thing. My commanding officer said, basically I had all these citations, and I was a great, I had volunteered for a lot of things with the 1st Infantry Division, paratrooping and the whole thing. And so I was I really wanted to, I wanted to be a good soldier at the time. And so, before my head turned. Because of my commendations and this and that and the other thing, the general just said, "Why?" And Nixon was granting early outs at that point. And that's what saved me. Because if that hadn't been happening, then they may have court-martialed me. But my commanding officer convinced the general that night, the prior night, to let me go.
So then did you go to school on the GI Bill?
Yeah, well, it was funny. Well, while I was in college, in the Air Force, I was going to University of Delaware for night school, and I wanted to be an architect at the time. And so I kind of went to this engineering course, and I had done all my other electives, so all I needed now was some other elective, and I took an acting course. I said, "Oh, well, acting, I'll meet some girls, and it'll be great." Little did I know, I had short hair, and I was a military man, and I was considered a pig at that time, so girls wanted nothing to do with me. But I persevered, and at the end of this class of the semester, the teacher came up to me. This guy named Andrew Hepburn. He came up to me and said, "You got something going on here. You're really talented. I think you should go to New York and apply at the Neighborhood Playhouse with Sanford Meisner, and just do it. Don't think about it. Just do it." And the way he said it to me, it just resonated. And I thought, okay, I'll do it.
But you were smart enough then to do it.
Yeah. Well, the way he said it to me, I just went, this could be my salvation. And also the reason why I wanted to be an actor, frankly, was to escape reality. I mean, you get to play all these different people, and you don't have to deal with yourself for the most part. You're really getting a chance to to try on other people's clothes and wear their shoes, and it's a way of a certain amount of escape, and I really enjoyed that, and I love the process. I'm going to the neighborhood playhouse with Sanford Meisner was like, and Bill Alderson. It was just fantastic.
And who else was there when you got there? Who else was there?
Well,
who else was in your class?
Well, Kim Basinger and Michael Nuri were in Bill Alderson's private class, which is where I went to after I quit the second year. It's a 2-year program, and I had it with the program, and I went to study privately with Bill Alderson, and that's where Michael Nuri and Kim Basinger were, and she was the sweetest. I haven't seen her in years and years and years, but at the time she was the nicest, sweetest woman I've ever, and most beautiful I've ever seen. She's really.
And you ended up working with Michael Nuri, of course, on Bay City Blues.
Exactly right.
Which we'll get to in a little bit. But why don't you continue your journey toward Bay City Blues?
I got a quick question for Jeff, real quick. When you said like you wanted to be an actor because you could be somebody else, you could escape who you are, that resonates with me because not being an actor, not knowing anything about acting, when you take on a role like that and you fail, let's say you have a lousy night or you fail, does it give you like a sort of like an excuse to fail because, that's not really me, that's the character I'm playing? I mean, can you fall back on that? Or
no.
I don't know. I'm just,
No. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm also a control freak. So that's why I ultimately left acting, because you're just for hire. You hit your mark and say your line and get the hell out. But
right.
And then you're left in the hands of the editor or the theater. I love. I mean, theater is a process. The train leaves the station when you walk on stage, and that's it. There's no retakes. There's no let's do this again. You just go. And I love the moment to moment doing of reality in that space. But film, going on location and waiting for your scene and doing this, it just got too much for me. I'm too. Anyway.
Well, let's talk about your career up to the point where you got fed up with acting, but you had a very productive acting career. So
I was on Broadway, off-Broadway, Circle Repertory Company. That's where Marshall Mason and Lanford Wilson and Beth Hemley and these people in this company were just spectacular. And we read a new play every Friday afternoon, and then we would discuss it with the writer. And so it was all about the writer. The writer was king, and we were there to service the writer. We were there to facilitate the process of a writer, and his piece. And then it would. So it was so exciting time. It's such an exciting time, and I just loved that experience. It was seminal for me, and so that really taught me about the craft of writing, the dynamic of the process of writing as rewriting, and so I really it helped me greatly when I was directing and I kept acting, doing anything. I was producing. It all fed right into that.
And what do you feel your big break was?
Well, it's funny. I think the big break was when it was when I'd gone to after the Playhouse. I had some New York experiences which I won't go into. But I left New York and I went to L.A. to take care of my grandmother who had a brain tumor, and so I was taking care of her for a couple of years till she passed on. And when I was there, I read this like the local paper, acting paper, and it was an open call for a play that Marshall Mason was directing, and I didn't know Marshall at the time at all. And
Marshall or Marcia?
Marshall.
Okay.
Marshall Mason. Marshall.
Great.
He's seminal director in New York. He's one of the creating founders of Circle Rep. But it was equity, and I wasn't equity yet. So I was like, I went anyway. So I waited till all the actors that were seen, like some 100 actors, and I was the very last person. I walked up to the stage manager. I said, "Could I please audition for the director?" And he said, "No, I don't think so. You're not equity, and I don't think it's going to work." I go, "Well, please, just give me a shot with the guy, and let me, and then just ask him." And he did. And Marshall Mason said, "Oh, have him come in and read," because they hadn't found their guy yet. I walked in, and I must say, I knocked it out of the park. It was kind of an improv. and so he hired me on the spot, and that was a big break to go back to circle rap. And I got my dog here. What are you doing? Anyway, what are you doing? Oh, no, stop here. Come over here.
No problem.
There we go. Anyway, oh my gosh, what happened?
Oh, now we get cruelty to animals.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Figure it out. All right, here we go. So anyway, the big break though came when I was waiting tables right after that, and I met Joe Spinell. He was sitting at a table with two blondes. He had just done Rocky, and he played the loan shark in Rocky. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey man, I really liked you in the movie. I thought you were really terrific, and I liked you greatly." And he said, "You an actor?" I said, "Of course."
You want a blonde?
And he said, "So where'd you study?" I went Neighborhood Playhouse, New York City. He goes, "Oh, you're a real actor." I went, "Well, we'll see." And he says, "Hey, you get your SAG card yet?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, why don't you come down and meet the director on this movie I'm doing with Jag Palance? And, we'll get you a small role. There's this part for a cop that comes into the courtroom and tells Jag Palance that the slasher's at it again." And I went, "Okay, that sounds great." And I looked at him like, "Is this for real?" But sure enough, he gave me the address. I showed up. He came out, said, "Come on in, meet the director." I went in, and Charlie Martin was the director, was this old Hollywood type director with this like stogie in his mouth, and he's rotund, and he's like barking out, "Hey kid, how you doing? Hey." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So he goes, I hear you're a good actor. I hear Joe says great things about you." And Joe's never seen me. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, whatever."
You're a great waiter.
Yeah. Sort of a mean mozzarella. So I read. He says, "Take the script." He said, "Wait a minute. You know what, Joey? I think this guy would be great as the lead in this as a slasher." And Joey said, "But we've already cast that role." And so Charlie says, "I don't care. I want to see this kid read this role. So to go outside, Jeff, take the script with Joe, come back in and read it." And so I said, "Okay." So I went outside, and Joe says, "I don't know what's going on, but this is unbelievable. So this is a long scene. So what we'll do is we'll improvise it. You know how to improvise?" I said, "Sure, I know how to improvise." So he goes, "Okay, what we'll do is we'll go in there, and Jag Palance beats the hell out of you for your confession, and that's what we'll do. And you just go with me on this." I said, "Absolutely, I'm down." And so we went back in, and we did this improvisation, and it's like, fireworks are going off, and Charlie jumps up and goes, "That's it. You're hired, kid. You're hired. That's it. You're the slasher." And I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe my eyes. He goes, "You got to meet Jack, though. You got to meet Jak Palance." I said, "Okay." He said, "Come back tomorrow at 3:00. I said, "Okay." So I came back at 3:00. Jak Palance is sitting in the room. I sit down with him, and I wasn't intending this, but I had no money, and my clothes were kind of raggedy, and my shoes, I didn't know, had a hole in the bottom of the sole. And so I was sitting there, and I put my foot up, and Jak Palance looks at my shoe and goes, "You've got a hole in your shoe." And I said, "So fucking what?" He says, Joe turns to Charlie and says, "He's perfect."
Wow. Amazing.
That's how I got the role.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's a Hollywood story.
And what was that? What was that movie called?
It's called. It's called One Man Jury.
One Man Jury.
One Man Jury. And as I was making it, Joe Spinell, he played one of the mafia guys in it, and Joe
Really?
and Joe.
What were the odds?
Yeah, exactly. So well, Joe put me in that thing. But Joe says. Joe had Richie Ferrangi, Tony Sirico, all these guys. They're guys that were all in prison, and he did theater in prison. And when these guys got out, Joe put them to work. Joe is the most benevolent, gracious guy. He's a them and those guys, but kind of guy. But he was a wonderful heart, as you can see.
And Tony Sirico went on to become one of the
Sopranos,
great guys in the Sopranos.
That's right. So anyway. So we're making the movie, and Joe, everybody keeps coming to me and says, "Hey, you're doing phenomenal. You're an amazing actor. You're going to get an Academy Award for this." And I'm going, "What? What? Oh yeah, you're phenomenal. You're phenomenal." And I go, "Wow, okay." And it kind of goes to my head a little bit. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I am doing good work. And so and I didn't have any concept of what kind of movie it really was. It was Jack Palance, and I thought he wanted to be next. He was doing his Dirty Harry imitation basically, and because Clint Eastwood had just come out with his, and he wanted to do one, and so I was kind of thrilled. So I took my girlfriend to the premiere, and I'm sitting there, kind of butterflies in my stomach, and I'm thinking, wow, this is it. This is the beginning. This is my 24, and this is the start of my career. This is awesome. And then the movie plays, and not even halfway through the movie, I think for the first 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, what is this? And my heart just sank because it was just a terrible film, film. And my heart just sank, and I just thought to myself, wow, great lesson.
Were you still in it?
Oh yeah, I'm a lead. I kill everybody. I killed Carol Williams and Angela Tompkins, and it's crazy.
So how did that lead to Bay City Blues?
Well, gosh, Marshall brought me back to New York. He said, "Come back to New York and be a member of Circle." So I did that, and I was there 3 years. Met my wife, and had gotten married. And 3 months later, I was cast in a Broadway play by Lee Kelsheim, who you know.
His wife is Julia Lord, who was our literary agent on If These Lips Could Talk.
Yep. So it's like 6 degrees. I mean, anyway. But so anyway, we're doing this.
And what was the name of that play, Jeff?
It was called Breakfast with Les and Bess.
Okay.
Colin Taylor and Keith Charles, and Dan Ziske and John Leonard and Kelly Kipp. It's just a terrific, light, fun show. And we played at the Lambs Theater, and it was which was designed by Sanford White, a major theater, beautiful place on Broadway. Anyway, but so Steve Bochco heard about me, saw me in the play, and called me in and said, "Do you play baseball?" And I said, "I love baseball." He says, "Yeah, but I asked you, can you play baseball?" And I said, "Yeah, I can throw a ball. I can hit, yeah." And he said, "Okay, I want you to go out in the park in 2 days and play with this guy named Greg Hoblet, who's directing a pilot. And I want you to go out in the Central Park and throw a ball with him. And we'll see." I said, "Okay, great." And so Ken Olin, Perry Lang, and I all went to the Central Park together, and we're throwing the ball around and doing all our thing. And Steve hired me for the show. And it's funny because I didn't want to do TV. I really didn't want to do TV.
Let me tell the audience the backstory was the show was about a minor league baseball team called the Bay City Bluebirds, and it was Stephen Bochco's follow-up to Hill Street Blues.
Right. So
now continue the story.
Well, actually, Hill Street Blues was still going on.
Yes.
But Bay City was this new creation with Jeffrey Lewis and David Milch. And so I the first episode, the only thing I did in the pilot, in the first of 12 episodes was chase a pig in the mud. It's kind of like a pre-game fun, and I'm like, "But Steve, I'm gonna leave Broadway to go chase a pig." And I said, "I don't think so." He goes, No, you understand. I'll make good on your character. Now that I know you, I'll write for you. It'll all be good. Trust me. And so I said, okay. I mean, I didn't want to do TV. I mean, I turned down everything. I just had turned down so many things that were TV related, and I don't even want to embarrass myself by saying what they were. But I said, "Steve Bochco, Hill Street Blues. This guy's different. He's cool, and I really enjoyed meeting him." So I said, "Okay," and sure enough, it was the 4th episode. He really wrote
you and your dad.
Character. Yeah, it was awesome.
And your dad, who was playing your dad?
Bill Lucking.
Bill Lucking, who just passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, he just passed away.
He just passed away because I used Bill Lucking as Brother Matthias in Babe Ruth. Yeah. So it's a small world. Small world.
Well, he was wonderful, and it's really funny because Billy, you like this. There's different styles of acting. There's method. There's the Meisner method. There's different ways about your craft, how you arrive at a character, and how you prepare. Excuse me. And So I was like, at this particular instance, I used my father because he's playing my father. We're estranged. I haven't seen him in a while. He's a big baseball player. He's come back down to the minors for a tune-up to be a pitcher in the majors again. And I haven't seen him, and he's been a horrible father. And I'm like, okay, fine.
You can say fuck up, by the way. No, we're big First Amendment people here. No worries.
Good to know. All right. You don't know what you just got yourself into. So I'm just kind of like, I used my father as the guy. And so the whole episode, I was really dour and introverted and held on to this angst that I was working out. And because my dad, when he abandoned us, I didn't see him again for like 10 years. And so I was like kind of like, and he was living in the same city even for most of it. I just couldn't believe that he wouldn't, it's one of those things. Anyway, so I was using that, and it really made Bill very self-conscious and upset. He's like, does this guy hate me? He must hate me. He won't even talk to me.
You're a real actor. A real actor.
He's giving me this stink eye. This guy, I mean, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? And so I finally got to him and I said, hey, Bill, please. No, man, I love you. You're wonderful. And, please. And he says, okay, good. Well, let's show them how to do this. I go, you got it.
Can you tell us, one way to do the cast of Bay City Blues would be for you to go through the lineup, starting with first base.
That's me.
Okay.
That's first base.
Second base.
Okay, I don't know the positions. I know Julius Carey was played. I think
he played right field.
Right field. Ken Olin played shortstop.
Ken Olin played third base.
Third base. Okay, then Perry Lang was a pitcher. Barry Tubb was a pitcher.
Barry Tubb was a pitcher who went on to fame in Top Gun.
Top Gun, yeah, absolutely, yeah, Barry. Rodeo boy.
Michael T. was in center field. Michael T. Williamson from Bubba Gump.
Yep. Bernie Casey was a manager. Dennis Franz was a manager. Pat Corley was an owner.
Who was one of Billy's favorites, Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy, what a beautiful man that he was. Oh my God, what a beautiful man. He was awesome.
And who was he married to?
Not Sherry, right? No.
I think who was Sharon? Oh no, Sharon Stone was married to Pat Cassidy.
Yeah, Cassidy, yeah, right. And Michelle Green was married to Perry Lang.
Yeah.
It was an amazing cast. It really was an amazing cast. And
Michael Murray was the manager.
He was.
Bernie Casey was the
Coach,
DH.
Right? Yes, designated hitter. That's right.
Designated hitter, and Dennis Franz was the pitching coach before Beverly Hills Buns, which was before.
That's right.
He played bunts later in what the hell was that show? What was the show with Caruso? The big show.
It was NYPD Blue.
Yeah, NYPD Blue. NYPD Blue. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Any stories from those days?
Oh, well, I loved, let me just say that Mark Tinker, I love him. He was so gracious and wonderful to me.
And Mark Tinker directed Babe Ruth for me.
That's right. He's just a great guy.
Yeah.
God, what a great guy. And
his father was
Grant
Tinker, who was the president of MTM, and it was his stepmother was Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah,
his stepmother was Mary Tyler.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you were actor, director, producer.
But then you left.
Yeah, I'm just a busybody. I'm ADD, Bailey. Like you. It's like I looked at your book, and you're doing every different thing. You're like a fish swimming upstream. I love it. So, I get it. I totally understand your dynamic, and I get it. My thing is I'm just a control freak. So I kept searching for the way where I could have. The final say.
Well, let me try to keep this interview on process because I got two guys walking, going wherever here and there.
Frank, we're
free thinkers. I'm trying to keep this thing on track. So after Bay City Blues, you went and did your own series. You got your own series called Hawaiian Heat, with
Oh,
Bob.
why did you bring that up? That's horrible.
Well, because I found a poster of it.
That was the open shirt deal, right? That was the open shirt, show the chest hair, two hunks.
Yeah, 2 hunks. Well, I don't know
Yeah.
how much of a hunk Ginty was, but
That's funny because Shelley Winters was kind of laid into Bob about that. She goes, you should get some plastic surgery, and Bob was like, what? It's like crazy. But I have to say, I love working with Bob and Tracy Scoggins and Branscombe Richmond and Mako. They were the principal cast members, and the pilot was really good. I mean, I would say when I say really good, it was good. I wasn't saying it was spectacular. It wasn't on the par with Bay City or Hill Street Blues, but it was good. It was good fare. And and back in the day, they did the 2-hour TV movie as a backdoor
pilot.
And so I did that and not thinking it would go to series. I never had intention of doing another series. And then I get the call saying, yeah, it's going to series. And I go, oh no. And I said, okay, all right. I had a new baby. I thought, okay, this is good, I guess. And they're paying me good money. And all right, fine. I'll go to Hawaii, and do this. And so I'm on the plane with my wife, and I hadn't opened the first episode yet. And I'm reading it, and my face just drops because as I'm getting into the script, it's about me becoming a top volleyball player because somebody's killing the top volleyball players with exploding volleyballs.
All right. Natural.
Yeah, and I'm reading this going, and I'm riding a horse, and I'm on a motorcycle, and I'm surfing, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm living in a house with a bunch of stewardesses, and I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe that's not so bad. But again, I'm thinking, this is just, it's not good. So I got off the plane and called my agent, Sandy Bressler, and I said, Sandy, you got to get me out of this. I'm not doing this show. I said, I'm not doing it. He goes, you have to. You signed an agreement. You're done. You're in it.
By the way, Sandy Bressler was also repping Dolly Parton at the time, wasn't he?
I don't know about Dolly. He represented. I mean, Nicholson is his big client.
Okay.
They met when they were both in the Coast Guard, and he became Jack's agent for Jack's entire career. So
that's all you need is one Jack Nicholson. You're gold.
Correct.
That's all you need. Yes. So I love Sandy and John Kelly was his partner, and I love them both. They're great guys.
So when was the Robbie Benson movie Running Brave? Was that before was that before Bay City or after Bay City? Because Jeff played a great part in a movie that starred Robbie Benson called Running Brave. And who was Billy Mills? Billy Mills was the American Indian who won a gold medal in 68, 64 Olympics. And he came out of nowhere.
Somebody else's shoes. Somebody else's shoes. I mean, he didn't even have his own shoes. So, no, it's an amazing story. And Robbie was unbelievable. I mean, just wow. He talk about true grit. This guy, he tore his quad, and the next day he had to run sprints, and he did it.
Robbie or Billy?
Benson, you mean?
Robbie Benson.
Yeah. Okay.
And then tore the other quad, and he still ran. I mean, this guy is
Didn't he do awesome. A basketball movie that he was really?
He did one-on-one
basketball.
One-on-one, terrific too, right? Yeah. He was like really, really good in that. I remember.
He's a great guy. He really is.
Yeah,
and a great director too. He's also a director. Well,
he's directed.
You were directed by a couple of heavyweights too, right? Well, Wes Craven, Sly Stallone. I mean, that's got to be quite an experience.
Yeah. Wes Craven was awesome.
Really?
Linda Blair. Yeah, it was with Linda Blair after her Exorcist fame, and it was a very interesting film. It was a witchcraft film, and again a TV movie, and it was like I think the first thing I did after One Man Jury. So I was looking for a bit of redemption, and he played a cowboy. I get to ride horses, and it was awesome. I thought, okay, I'm in. I get to ride a horse. I'm in. I don't care. So it's kind of a corny TV movie, but Wes, does a great job with it, and everybody was great. But and Stallone, because of Joe Spinell, it was after One Man Jury. He took me to meet Stallone. He took me to meet everybody. Billy Friedkin, Steven Spielberg. I mean, Yeah, we would just walk on the lot. He would walk into their offices and go, "Hey, Steve, I want you to meet this kid. He's a great actor, Jeff McCracken." And it was bizarre. Joey was just the most magnanimous and wonderful guy. And he also wanted to say hi to them too. His good friend was Lou DiGiamo, the casting director, and his cousin was Frankie Pache, who was an actor himself. And he just was so generous with his and benevolent with people. All actors and actresses. He was just a wonderful man. And then,
So what movie did you do with Stallone?
well, Paradise Alley.
Oh, you did Paradise Alley.
Yeah, and he looked at me, Stallone, and I'm taller than Sly, and he kept looking at me like he's taller than me, So he started punching me in the arm, and I started punching him back, It's this punch thing.
This fucking guy.
I thought, what immature assholes we are. What are we doing in this elevator? We're punching each other.
I'll tell you, Paradise Alley. When I worked with Stallone on Victory, I said, well, he'd only done 3 or 4 movies at that time, and I said, I've seen all your movies. I even saw Paradise Alley. He goes, yeah, I watched that one with one eye closed.
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying. It was the first film he wrote before Rocky, and they wouldn't produce that because it was too unwieldy and big. And they said, you got to do a smaller film, more focused, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do Paradise Alley afterwards. And that was the deal with Universal.
Wow.
So they did Rocky, and Rocky was huge. And so they gave him the reins to direct Paradise Alley that he wrote. And it just wasn't a very good script and very kind of unwieldy. And also his fame had skyrocketed.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this guy was so popular. It was insane. And he had women everywhere. I mean,
That's a small fault of a good man there, Jeff, I think. A very small fault.
well, including my cousin who had come. She's tall. She's like 6 feet tall, gorgeous Irish girl, and she was working for a European radio station at the time. We had come to interview Sly, and she had just come off the Saturday Night Fever interview circuit with Badham and Paul Pape and Travolta and Donna, and now was over at Paradise Alley, and so she wanted to interview Sly, and so I'm standing on the outskirts of where they're filming, and Sly does one of these double takes where he looks over and sees me and goes, and then sees my cousin and goes, and I went, oh no, because he had every woman he wanted, and my cousin she had stars in her eyes too. I know, but she really wanted the interview, and so I told Sly, my cousin's off limits. You don't go near my cousin. Yeah, what are you talking about? And I said, no, you don't go near my cousin. That's it. It's a deal breaker. I'm telling you right now, it ain't gonna be pretty. He goes, oh, you threatened me, and with this whole boom, boom, boom again. I'm like, oh. So when I did the scene, after I got done with my scene and work and the movie and everything, he honored it. He didn't mess with my cousin.
Yep.
Much now to my cousin's dismay.
The one that got away.
So after you did a few more roles, one for me and Mel in Pete Gray, A Winner Never Quits.
Yeah, that was great.
You went on to become a director on Dinosaurs and Boy Meets World. And
well, what happened was I did this film. My buddies from the restaurant where I met Joe Spinell. It was a place in the valley. It was called Josefina's on Ventura Boulevard, and it's no longer there. But it was in Studio City or Sherman Oaks actually. And so these two guys were making a movie. It was Robin Armstrong and Eric Young, and they'd asked me to be a part of the movie, to play a part of the antagonist to William Russ. And I said,
who's going to be a guest on our show, by the way?
Oh, great. I love Billy. Rusty's wonderful. So anyway, and he's great in this movie, by the way. He's really great in this movie. It's called One Cup of Coffee. And so just as I were supposed to start shooting, and we're using, by the way, Frank, we're using the stadium out in the Simi Valley,
which is Bluebird Stadium.
Bluebird Stadium. And they were going to tear it down. And so we were going to be the last production to get in there before they tore it down. And so we had hard dates to shoot there. But unfortunately, I got cast in another movie with Shirley MacLaine and Terry Garr, and I said to the guys,
What movie was that, Jeff?
This is Waiting for the Light.
Waiting for the Light.
Waiting for the Light, yeah. And Shirley MacLaine and Terry Garr. So anyway, I went, and it was shooting up in Vancouver, or actually Seattle. And so I went to Seattle to shoot, and it was only supposed to be a week, but it turned out to be like 2.5 weeks or 3. And so I had to recast my role. And I came back, and I just said, I was kind of hanging out, and they said, hey, would you help us produce this? I mean, you helped us get us the DP, you helped us get us the casting director, you helped us get us, all these department heads. You're basically helping us produce this movie already. So would you just hang in there and help us? I said, absolutely, I'd love to. So that's how I kind of got into the producing game. And at one point, we were running $500,000 short of our budget. It was we had budgeted for $1 million, but we needed $500,000 more. So I came with the idea of, let's put together a bunch of scenes that have already been shot. We'll throw them up there. We'll invite a bunch of people, tell them to bring their checkbooks, whether it be $25 or $40, whatever it is, and we'll just start that way. And that's what we did. The editor put this stuff together, really good scenes. The audience went nuts for it. And I'm walking out of the theater, and Shane Dixon, who was a stunt double in Hawaiian Heat, came up to me and said, I want to introduce you to somebody. His name's Ted Knight Jr. And Ted and his father had just passed away from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And so he said, well, and Ted said, I love what you're doing. This is great. How much money do you need? And I said, well, we need about $500,000. He goes, I'll write you a check tomorrow.
Unbelievable.
And I went, what? Yeah. So we got the money to finish the film, and we took it to Sundance, and it won the award at Sundance. And our favorite friend, Harvey from Miramax, Weinstein, he bought it, and with the condition that Robin, the director, rewrite the ending and reshoot it. Because in the movie, William Russ dies in the movie from a heart condition. And he doesn't want him to die. He thought it was a downer of an ending. He doesn't want that. And the film's about this old white pitcher passing on the torch to a young black pitcher. And this is in 1950. So it deals with racism. It deals with baseball's ugly side and whatnot. It's a sweet film. It really is. I really liked it a lot. Anyway, but so Harvey says to Robin, if you don't reshoot the ending, because Robin said, I'm not doing it. I'm not reshooting the ending. It won the award at Sundance, for God's sake. Forget it. He said, if you don't do that, I'm going to take all your P&A, your prints and ads, and I will contractually put you in theaters for 1 weekend, and then I'll give all your P&A to a new film I just bought called Paris is Burning. It's a documentary about gays in France, and that's what I'm going to do. And Robin said, well, I'll sue you. And we've never seen Harvey's eyes light up like, really? He was so excited about being sued.
Really?
So, yeah, and I thought, oh, I'm looking at the face of Satan. And I turned to Robin and said, maybe we should think about this. I mean, seriously, it's not a bad idea. And Robin said, absolutely not. And wouldn't do it. And Harvey was true to his word. He buried the film. He buried it. Yeah.
That happens.
Now, let me ask you something. You're an actor, director, producer,
Well,
playwright.
he hasn't become a director yet.
No,
We're getting there.
I know.
We're getting
I
there.
know you're the play-by-play guy, but I got to do this color. Just this color spot. Let me just throw it in there.
Okay, throw it in
Actor, director, producer, playwright. You're a control freak. What gives you the most control? Is it playwright?
My painting.
Yes,
Okay, well,
we're going to get there too.
We're going to get there. And I've seen some of your work, and it's brilliant. I think it's great, man. Great. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So now, how do you go from one cup of coffee to Dinosaurs, directing Dinosaurs?
Well, because I had just done that and done the film with Shirley MacLaine and Terry Garr, I thought that film would kind of help me, launch me, regenerate my career in a way that would put me more in league. Because I had been up for so many films, Frank, and I've been up for. I've gotten so close to such major films, so close. But I always got beaten out the last, I would screen test and I would say I'd had the role, but then Richard Gere would say I want to do it, or John Travolta, or whatever. And I would lose.
By the way, that's who you're losing jobs to.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Again, it's what I was, that's what I was up for. And so I just said, okay, at a certain point you go, okay, so I thought maybe this film with Shirley MacLaine and Terry Guy would help rejuvenate that and put me in good standing. And the film was okay. Chris Munger, the director, wonderful guy. And Terry and Shirley were fantastic. And it's a sweet film. Clancy Brown was in it. Vincent Schiavelli, great cast. Anyway, I didn't do really well at the box office.
Clancy Brown, who just got killed in Dexter.
Who did?
Clancy Brown.
No, really?
He was the major foil in Dexter. Dexter,
cool.
the reboot.
The reboot. Okay,
and when we did Babe Ruth, it came down to Stephen Lang or Clancy Brown.
I read that.
And Stephen Lang got the job.
And Stephen Lang was superb.
Yeah, thanks.
No, he really was. That movie is great, Frank. It's a great movie.
Thank you.
Everything you touch is great.
Well, let's not get carried away.
No, I'm serious.
Look at where I am. look at where I am today.
Oh, he's got his patch now. I'll sink that ship. Don't you worry about it. Just give me time.
It's true, Frank. You deserve a huge pat on your back. I really mean it. What surprised me most, Frank, is when we were doing Bay City Blues, Frank was a rep for Pony Sporting Goods, and so we got all our shoes and equipment free, and Frank was just always there, cool. Just a cool cat. I was
one of the Bluebirds.
Yes,
I was like 32 years old, so I could put on a uniform and play an extra. So I did that also. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. So now
I just want to say I couldn't be more proud and more impressed with what you've done. I mean it. It blows me away.
Like I said, look where it's got me.
Hey, you're sitting across from Billy O'Connor, okay?
Yeah. That's something to write home about.
A guy that's got the GERD and he's chewing. He's rechewing his food.
What are you going to do, Frank? It's a disease, Frank. It's a disease.
It's a 9/11. Well, it comes from being a first responder at 9/11. But so now you're on Dinosaurs. How did you get Dinosaurs?
Well, what happened was because of the film that we won at Sundance, One Cup of Coffee. I had a friend from the neighborhood playhouse, Michael Jacobs. Was a buddy of mine at the time, and he had just gotten a huge overall deal at Disney. He had done Charles in Charge, My Two Dads, and now Disney signed him to a huge deal to create TV for them. And so, and Michael and I were talking one day, and he said, "Look, what's next for you?" I said, "I don't know. You got two kids, and you're going from job to job. I tell you what, why don't you come to Disney, work with my company, and I'll give you $1,000 a week to develop feature films, and you can go off and act, do anything you want to do, but just make sure you're developing films for me, because you got great taste, and this film I can sell you because this film is great." So that's what I did. And so Dinosaurs was this first project that Michael really created with Bob Young and Brian Henson, the Henson Company. And
that was around 1991, thereabouts?
Yeah, exactly. And so it had never been done before. I mean, these animatronic creatures with guys in suits and guys controlling the faces off to one side and all these cables. And these were life-size, huge creatures. And so it was basically the honeymooners. If the dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, it was basically the honeymooners, And
it was set 63 million years BC or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so it was a great show. I mean, God, we had a blast. It almost killed me because we were on the stage for hours, and you'd see these guys in these suits, and they could only had like these little holes in the neck to see out, or the mouth when it would open. And at first, all the animatronics were not working correctly. Like the character of Roy was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it had a long mouth, and it would go, like malfunction. And so Sam McMurray, who's genius, an actor, came in to do the voiceover of Roy, and we did it in reverse because of this. We shot the show first, and the people who control the mouths would do the dialogue and operate the mouths, and the actors in the suit would do the body behavior. So, and then there was a voice actor that would come in afterwards and then lay down, watch the image of these mouths and put the words in the mouth so it looked semi, accurate. And the thing with Roy, the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Sam McMurray, is he developed a stutter because it would malfunction. So Sam put the, hey, brother boy, how you doing? And that's how these characters were created. It was out of necessity. So
and that lasted 2 or 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
3 years,
seasons.
and that begot Boy Meets World, and you became basically the house director on Boy Meets World.
Yeah, David Traynor did the first 2 years. He's brilliant. David Traynor is an amazing director. And so I watched him. Michael said, I want you to come over and do Boy Meets World because I think David's leaving to do Golden Girls or something. And I said, okay. So I watched him. I did the last couple of shows in the second season. And then he handed me the third, fourth, and fifth seasons. So it was great. And it ran for 7 years. I directed the last episode and episodes throughout that. But we were also doing, Michael, he had... At one time, I think we had like 4 or 5 shows on the air. It was insane. It was crazy. Him and Kelly were the 2 big, guys on the lot.
And Boy Meets World, of course, they'll star Danielle Fishel and Ben Savage and Ryder Strong, and it was a great cast. And
I love that. I love those people so much. I mean, I really do. And also because I was having kids. Billy, I wanted to stay home more too. I didn't want to be on the road. I didn't want to go off and miss time. And the sitcom, as Frank will tell you, is the best gig in the world because you have a 5-day work week,
and you're only working 60 hours.
Yeah,
it's always 60 hours, but it's steady. It's there. You know where you're going to be. You know where you're going to be next week.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, when I was looking up your quotes, because you're a writer, and I wanted to see, most of your quotes are from Boy Meets World.
Oh, those quotes are not my quotes. I don't know what they.
I swear to God, that's what kept popping up.
I never said those words. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. I really don't know what they are. Some person put them in my mouth. I have no idea.
Well, and while you were with Michael Jacobs, you also developed Quiz Show, the feature film, the Academy Award winning feature film starring Robert Redford. Why don't you talk us a little about directed by Robert Redford. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about how that experience came about?
Yeah, I'll give you a capsule of that. Primarily, I'd gone to Disney to really do feature films. And so I said, well, I want to do a feature film. And we had these 2 writers on Dinosaurs, which, by the way, was, the greatest writing staff I've ever seen. Just amazing. And every one of those guys on that show are now running shows of their own or have run shows of their own. They're all that talented. It's amazing. But anyway, what happened was Dave Kaplan and Brian LePan were a writing team on Dinosaurs, and they came up and they said, hey, have you seen this documentary on Quiz Show, the Quiz Show scandals in the 1950s? I said, no. He said, well, you should watch it. We think it might make a great movie. So I went immediately watched it, and it was made by Julian Cranen, who won an Academy Award for another documentary. And I said, this is phenomenal. I love this milieu. I just love the whole potential of this. It's the first lie perpetrated on the American public by television. On television. So I thought, oh, this is great. So I took it to Michael, and he loved the idea. And then we took it to Jeff Katzenberg, and he loved the idea. And he said, I've always been trying to make this film. He said, Jeff, go to the East Coast and get the rights from the documentary from Julian. So I flew to the East Coast and met with Julian. And Julian says, I'm being courted by another producing team. And I said, well, who? Barry Levinson and Mark Johnson.
Wow.
Said, oh, really? Well, let me tell you how we want to make the film. And I told him, I pitched him. It was a pitch to the Angels, And afterwards he said, okay, I love how you want to make this movie. Yeah, okay. I'll have my lawyer call Disney. I said, okay, good. So I went back east, and sure enough, we got the rights. And Mark Johnson, because I said Mark Johnson and Barry Levinson were also interested in this material. They had been developing another project, same arena.
And we should tell the audience this is the Charles Van Doren
Yes.
quiz show scandal of $64,000 question.
Yeah, Herb Stempel and Charles Van Doren. It was.
What year was
Fine.
that? 54, 55?
Yeah.
Because I can
somewhere
remember that happening. I mean, I was old enough to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So in any event, and they had been talking to Bob Redford about directing their film. And then Mike Midavoy put their film in turnaround, didn't want to pursue it anymore. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. So we went ahead with ours, and then Jeff calls us up and says, I have your director. It was right before Christmas. And we said, and we had made our list of Sidney Pollack, Sidney Lumet,
Wow.
New York directors. And we thought, these are our guys we want to go to.
Heavyweights.
Yeah. And they said, well, I have your director. And we said, oh, who? Robert Redford. And we went, and I love Robert Redford. I mean, as an actor, looking at Warren Beatty and Robert Redford, they set the template for what I wanted to do eventually, which was, direct, produce, write, all that stuff. I mean, they were the golden standard. So to work with Bob Redford, I was like, you're kidding, really? And so we said, great. And then, so then that's what happened. And then Redford, we went to New York, and I was there for a short time. And then Bob basically said, if you're not doing anything on the set, then,
Be off the set.
Be off the set, and so I said to him, we started talking. I was bringing up some things and talking to all my buddies in the film, like John Turturro, Griffin Dunn, Chris McDonald. All these guys were guys I've grown up with in the business, and so I was talking to them about the history of this project and the characters, because some things were different in the script that Bob had taken license with, and I was kind of like not really happy. And Kathy O'Weir, the costume designer, she was there listening to me talk to the actors, and she said, you really should talk to Bob about this. And I go, I don't know if Bob wants me to talk to him about this. He seems very intent on what he wants to do. And she goes, no, you need to talk to Bob about this. And I go, okay. And so the next day I get a call from the producer. They say, Bob Redford wants to see you in his office or on the set. We're doing wardrobe tests. And I said, oh, okay. So I went to the set, and she said, and he's not happy. And I go, what happened? And he goes, just be there tomorrow, 10 o'clock. So I went there, saw him. He saw me across the room, came over to me. He said, let's sit down. He didn't like me being taller than him. So we sat down, and he said, what's this I hear about you talking to my actors? And I went, oh, well, the guys I know, and we're asking questions. And he goes, I'm making the film my way. And I get, oh, I understand that. And I was very conciliatory and going, but Bob, you should know about certain things that you've got in the script that maybe you need to think about. He says, okay, let's meet at my office tomorrow morning, and we'll deal with it. And I said, okay, great. So I went to his office in Rockefeller Center, and I was there. Went there like for like every morning for like a week, and you wait for Bob. You always wait for Bob. But then when you get him, he's totally there and present, and we had great discussions. And then at the end, he said, "Okay, you can go home. I got it.
Wow.
I'm making the film." And I went, "Okay, And I told Jeff Kassenberg, I said, he's basically saying I should come home, and Jeff said, "Yeah, come home. Yeah, don't bother anymore."
It comes down to Robert Redford or Jeff McCracken.
Oh, please.
Jeff McCracken's going home.
Yeah, I get it. But I, the well was also poisoned by someone else about me there too. So there was a lot of politics involved as well. And I don't hold any grudges or because it's a wonderful film. I'm glad I was part of it. And I also learned a great lesson that, just because you're a producer on the film does not mean you're going to call the shots.
Yeah.
Or you're going to, make it the way you want it to be.
So now we get to your artwork, unless Billy had a question.
Just a quick question. The co-producer, correct me if I'm wrong, on that film was the congressional investigator for the actual case.
Yeah, I don't want to see
Richard,
anything.
Good one.
Yeah, he wrote a book, and I don't want to. That was one of my issues with the film. Even though Goodwin, they used his writing as a template.
They used his writing to give him a cover for making the story.
Yeah. And what happened? Really Richard Goodwin had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Very often that's the case.
Rob, and as Bob said to me, don't let truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
And Goodwin he came to the party late. It was D.A. Stone, District Attorney Stone, who did all the investigative work, and he was the guy that unveiled the whole thing.
So it was the cover, more or less? It was like...
Yeah, anytime a book, you option a book,
cred.
That's where you do it, but often the writer's agent will ask for a credit of some sort, either an associate producer credit or a co-producer credit or a producer credit, because the producer credit, those credits don't cost them anything. So they'll just give the credit away. Just what really pisses me off about show business is the guys that really do the work, the Jeff McCrackens of the world, etc., they don't get as much money as somebody who just is given
it's funny, Rick,
an ancillary credit.
I don't know if this ever happened to you, Frank, but I had a producer credit. I know. Me, Michael, and Julian, and then Bob said there's two, and then Michael Noza came on board to actually be the line producer, and Bob said there's just too many producers, and he asked me to take a co-producer credit instead, and I kind of balked and said, well, wait a minute, why should I do that? And so Kassenberg called me up and said, come to my office and we'll talk. So I went to his office and we talked, and he said, would you just do this for us? And I go, is Bob being that? He goes, yeah, it's an aesthetic thing. And I said, wow.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, and he said to me, you're the reason this film is happening. You're the reason this film is being made. There's no question about that, and we owe you. So what can we do? And I said, well, give me a green light on my next film. That's, I don't know what it is yet. I have some ideas, but you got to guarantee me that, you'll make it. And he says, look, we'll go through the process, and I guarantee you we'll make your next film. I said, all right, terrific. I'll have my lawyer call yours and blah, blah, blah. We worked it out there. And then I went home and called my attorney and said, well, call Disney tomorrow and work this out, The next day, Katzenberg left Disney to go form DreamWorks.
And he knew that.
Unreal.
And he knew that.
He knew that, without a doubt.
He knew that, by the way.
Without a doubt.
So
again, I got, it's like one of these things you learn in the biz.
Yep. And those stories happen all the time. All the time.
A lot of backstabbing, a lot of.
So when I was in New York doing Murphy Brown, Jeff and I reconnected. And he and his lovely wife Janet invited me up to his house in Connecticut, and I was astonished to find the most brilliant artwork that Jeff has. Sort of a talent you've uncovered late in life, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting in terms of developing. Yes. I mean, when I was in the South Side of Chicago, my mom took me to the South Side Community Center to listen to Margaret Burroughs speak about painting, and it was amazing. She's an amazing woman, and it was talking about the injustice that certain painters were, representing, and the struggle in terms of race and culture in Chicago and in the world. And I just found her galvanizing, and I found that art had a purpose. It wasn't just about pretty pictures. There was something going on in these paintings that she was talking about. And so that introduced me to, then my mom got me into the Art Institute to take drawing classes to keep me off the streets, and I loved it. We used to do outdoor painting parties because my dad was an architect and my mom was a painter. So I kind of just, through osmosis, always second nature to me. And so after taking the drawing classes, it just stuck with me. And then throughout my life, I've gone to it when I feel lost or need some sort of creative outlet, to ground me. And now that I'm, pretty much focused on just writing and painting, I can't imagine anything better right now.
I tell you, your paintings are phenomenal.
Well, thank you, man.
They're great. Really great.
The use of color and light, and I know I'm going to have Derek put up a couple in post. But your use of color and your use of lighting and contrast of lighting is really magnificent.
Well,
And I
thanks,
mean,
bro.
you are a true artist. I mean, art is different to everybody who sees it, but I don't see art in like Pollock. I I just don't see.
Yeah, I know the guy can paint, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I know the guy can paint, but I don't get him. I get.
Abstract art is its own element, and there's a different sensibilities that are going on, with movement and spatial dynamics and relationships, and there's in color and tone and texture. I mean, it has its own place, and I really appreciate. I loved Pollock when I was younger, and de Kooning and Herring, all these guys. I love the pop art scene, and as well as the contemporary, abstract scene. But for me. And I've dabbled in a little bit. I've burned them all, but I dabbled. But these paintings are, this is, it's a way for me because I'm in being. It's a way for me to create characters, and it's, as I said in my this one interview, I said it's capturing these people being private in a public place, and like in the subway. It's unfettered. People are not, they're not performing. They're not self-aware. Because when I take pictures of them, I tried sketching them first, but then they're always getting off at the next stop. Or the minute they see you sketching them, they're very self-conscious and they change their position.
Right.
So to get them in the real moment when they're lost with themselves and in that private place, in a public place. That's what I was after in this series of paintings, and that's what. So it's like, it's like that game you play when you see people on the street or you're sitting in a park. And you're going and you make up a story about that person. In terms of who they are and what they do and their background, their history. You've never seen them before, but you're intrigued by creating a story for them. Well, I'm intrigued by when I see these people and I choose these paintings. I'm deconstructing it, as well as identifying with the aesthetic and figuring out how I want to approach it. So it's really fun.
And where can our audience see your artwork?
Well, you can go to www.jeffmccrackenart.com.
And how do you spell McCracken?
MCCRACKEN.
JeffMcCrackenart.com. That's great. Before we wrap it up, Billy, you have any final questions?
One of the ones that really grabbed me was that your painting of the Minetta Tavern on McDougal Street, home of the famous $36 hamburger, I might add. But yeah, it was really cool, man. It really grabbed me, and the idea of the intimacy of you grabbing intimate moments in public places, and you take their photos and then you paint from there. Have you ever got it back to haunt you, where somebody said, "I saw my face in that painting, and what's in it for me?" Or has that ever happened to you? Could it happen to you?
No. First of all, my art, it is available to see online now. But the people that I'm taking pictures of, I don't think they're
art aficionados.
Yeah. Didn't you want to ask Billy? Didn't you want to ask Jeff a question about why he didn't play a music? Also?
Oh yeah, I got you grabbed it all. It shocked me you weren't a musician as well. Did you never play the piano or the French horn or something? I mean, it seems like you dotted every other I.
If I hadn't gone into acting, I probably would have become a rock musician. I had a chance I had a decision to make with a buddy of mine. We used to create a lot of music together, and he was an Eagles fan, and he could play every lick. He was really talented. His name was Carpenter. And he really tried to convince me to start this band. And half of me wishes I had, but then I have I go, no.
So you did play an instrument?
Well, a guitar, yeah.
Well, that's an instrument. That's legit.
It is.
But I don't, no, but Billy, I don't play. I don't, no. No, I don't play. I dabble in piano and guitar, but I do not play. Jeff Goldblum, he plays. He's very good.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's a jazz pianist. He's very good. Jeff's a great guy too, by the way. But I don't play.
Final question: how would you like to be remembered?
Alive.
Yeah, I guess. No, that's a horrible question. I don't know. I'm not. I don't even care about that. I really don't. As Christopher Walken said, he has this quote where he says, "In several generations, nobody's going to remember who you are. So what difference does it make? Live your life for today, and that's it. Don't think about that. I think the major stars, like Cary Grant and people like, they are forever emblazoned on the celluloid, and you'll always know who they are, or great historical figures. But someone like me, it's just that I'm enjoying life. And I read this book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and it's just about staying present. This dog does that for me. I tell you, this dog makes me present, and I love that. It's just, they don't look in the future, they don't look behind. It's just all about right now, being present, connected to you, and that's what I love.
Well, you've been a great guest, Jeff. Oh, thank you so much.
Great meeting you, man. Just great meeting. I could talk to you for hours. I'd love to crack.
If I come to LA, you're in LA, right, Billy?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Well, the three of us are going to go to dinner. I'm taking you guys out.
I'd love that.
I'm not done with you yet.
I love it. I would be delighted to pick your brain some more, man. It's been a real pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
And give my love to Janet.
You got it, Frankie.
All right.
Likewise.
All right.
Man.
Thanks,
all the
my
best,
friend.
brother.
All right. Take care, guys. Take care.
So another one.
Yeah, man. You're pulling these guys out of your hat, and they're just terrific. Just one after the other. This guy was just great. A great interview. And, I didn't even get to ask him so many questions, especially with Quiz Show. Just working with Paul Scofield. Scofield, to me, was a monster actor, a man for all seasons.
Right.
He's just, he's iconic. And then
Well, like he
Ray
said,
Fiennes, too. Ray Fiennes is...
like he said, he came up with all those guys in New York. He worked with all of them, Turturro
and to John Turturro, another guy, a real, I guess... the Pacino's, De Niro school of acting, like real, raw, there,
Yep.
But, you've worked with so many greats, too, yourself,
And now I'm working with you.
Well, there you go.
And
how low can you sink?
And Derek. Well, I don't want to put Derek on your level.
It's funny. He was mentioning how the recruiter in the Air Force told him, you're going to fly, you can do this, you can do that. I got into the Air Force. They told me, oh, listen, you qualify your tests across the board. You can be anything you want. No problem. So I went to my career decision, and they put up like 70 different job choices. And they said, well, these are all available to you because, you scored so high on the test. Oh, but it says here you're colorblind. Oh, okay. So that eliminates 35 of them, right? And then they said, wait a minute. You weren't born in this country. You're not a citizen. You weren't born, you're a naturalized citizen. Yeah. Oh, then you're a security risk. And they eliminated 33 more of them and left me with forklift operator and data processing machine operator. And I didn't even know what data processing machine operator was, but I knew what a forklift operator was. And I said, well, okay, I'll take that. I was down to 2.
Yeah, and you didn't take forklift operator.
No, you can do anything you want. Anything.
Well, you know what you can do?
Say goodbye.
Say goodnight.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Derek. Goodbye, Frank. And thanks for tuning in, as always. Read Combustible, read Lamar's Gamble, read If These Lips Could Talk. Read anything.
Read anything.
Dictionary. Read anything.
As long as you're reading, you're alive.
That's exactly right, Frank.
Yeah.
And thanks again for looking at. We appreciate it.
Next week's guest, actress, Growing Pains, director, A Million Little Things, Grey's Anatomy, High School Musical, Joanna Kearns.